The position of Billy Eduard Albert Meier Billy Eduard Albert Meier, in the FIGU, and among the core group members. His type of teaching. His behavior towards the core group members, as well as Billy as a human being and herald of the truth from the point of view of the core group of 49 by Hans-Georg Lanzendorfer, Switzerland.
There is no doubt that the human beings of this planet Earth Terra are living in a unique epoch of their history, without, however, being even remotely aware of this fact. Blinded by false philosophies, esoteric, false teachings, cult religions, and the mammon of their materialistically oriented way of life, they are unable to recognize the presence and the inestimable uniqueness of the true prophet of the modern age, Billy Eduard Albert Meier. Billy Eduard Albert Meier. We live in an information age. There is hardly a spot of Earth left on this planet where the mass media have not publicized his presence through TV radio broadcasts, through the internet, or a multitude of newspaper reports and articles in the course of the past 30 years. But Earth humans have learned to perfect their consciousness blindness to the truth with their eyes open. Thus, the knowledge and insights into his work, as well as into his valuable teachings in the 20th century and at the crossed threshold to the Third Millennium, remained reserved only for a small circle of a few thousand Earthlings. Therefore, the unfolding of the fruits of consciousness of his work will still take many centuries. This fact, however, was already predicted millennia ago, whereby it was also pointed out that the prophet of the modern era, the guardian of the treasure, would begin his great mission in the land of peace, called Elvet, with the teaching and instruction of the human beings in small groups. With his birth on the 3rd of February 1937 in Bulach, Switzerland, a great turning point in the history of the Earth was initiated, largely unnoticed by earthly humanity. The silent revolution of the truth had begun. Innumerable supposed wise men, alleged knowers, male and female wheelers and dealers and prophets, as well as prophetesses of their own grace and self-proclaimed UFO contactors, are now wandering over our planet with drum and trumpet. In contrast to all the horrendous charlatanry and the contradictory, irrational, and false teachings of this sector on this planet, the statements and teachings of Billy Eduard Albert Meier captivate through their high quality and logic. His spiritual teaching GL shine through their clarity, comprehensibility, creation-relatedness, and comprehensibility. It knows neither idolatry nor personality cults, demands neither the worship of gods nor human beings. This alone makes it a revolutionary novelty on this planet. Neither Billy nor our extraterrestrial friends and teachers make any promises of salvation. Know neither class distinctions nor classifications of FIGU members, and their teachings are based on the equal value, equal status, and equality of all human beings. In ufology, the real truth and the cooperation of Billy Eduard Albert Meier with his extraterrestrial friends is proven by a multitude of real photographs and diverse evidence of extraordinary significance, sharpness, and clarity, in addition to the well over 120 witnesses regarding observations and the photographing of Pleiadian spaceships, regarding very special experiences in connection with extraterrestrials and their technology, as well as regarding Billy's contacts with the Pleiadian. With these facts, Billy Eduard Albert Meier is not at all convenient for many human beings, institutions, and organizations, such as the churches, cult associations, and government organizations in this world. On the one hand, he is criticized by cult religious, sectarian, and esoteric circles regarding his teachings. On the other hand, he is unjustifiably accused of fraud, swindle, and lies from ufological circles. Nevertheless, Billy has been able to stand up to all hostility and criticism for the past 60 years. In contrast to many others who claim to be in contact with extraterrestrials, spirits, etc., only to have their lies exposed and themselves exposed as frauds. Since the founding of the FIGU Association in 1975, Billy Eduard Albert Meier has to this day found a considerable number of sensible human beings who actively support his mission and task in various groups as tireless male and female comrades in arms. Since the year 1942, Billy Eduard Albert Meier is and has been tirelessly active in some kind and wise for his instructive task and mission. The very fact of his decades of persistence is worthy of closer study and unprejudiced examination of his case. Not a single human being on this earth would be capable of surviving and sustaining a lie and fraud for over 6 decades without damage. Not even Billy Eduard Albert Meier. The genius required for such a prank would probably be unsurpassed in its magnitude. The prerequisite would have been that Billy, according to the ideas of his opponents, would have had to coordinate the facts of a planned fraud already as a 5-year-old boy for the next more than 60 years in the highest precision for the presentation of evidence. Countless human beings, helpers and assistants, as well as hundreds of his encounters and witnesses, would have had to be perfectly manipulated or silenced by him in the past, and until today. And that would be and is simply an impossibility on this scale. Sooner or later, the real truth always breaks into the light, just as the small seed of a tree is able to break forth between rock and stone with irrepressible force. The conscience of a human being cannot be shut down without limits and without time for a deliberate lie or for profit-seeking and fraudulent machinations. The psyche of the human beings concerned would sooner or later suffer massive damage as a result. Thus, history has also shown time and again that such oriented and manipulative human beings were one day abandoned by the power to maintain their trickery, lies, and deceit, and ended in disgrace, ignominy, and shame. In the case of Billy Eduard Albert Meier, however, it is exactly the opposite. The more time progresses, the more precisely the many evidences join together to form a great mesh of the real truth and his sincerity, proving more and more that his statements and explanations correspond to the truth. The fulfillment of the prophecies he has brought within the period from the 28th of January 1975 to the present day, as well as the precise fulfillment of all the hundreds of predictions of his extraterrestrial friends and of himself, speak such a clear language that this alone removes all doubt. Never before in the history of humankind has there been a herald who has worked on such a large scale as Billy, who never makes a fuss about himself, but only puts the teaching of the truth and all his help for it in the foreground. In contrast to the many male and female false teachers and irrational teachers of the planet Terra, Earth, Billy Eduard Albert Meier does not place his own personality, but the teaching, spiritual teaching, aka creation energy teaching, as such, in the center of his work and teachings. Truly searching, inquiring, and honest human beings always find an open ear with him and receive reliable answers to clear questions. In his teachings, indications, and advice lies hidden a great measure of responsibility towards fellow human beings and supplicants. He is always very careful not to burden the human beings with unnecessary things that could do more harm than good to their psyche and consciousness as a result of overload. In his teachings, Billy has the great ability to recognize the state of development and consciousness of a human being in order to convey appropriate and comprehensible answers to him or her. The manner of his teachings and advice are practically comprehensible. They are not theoretical intellectual constructs or fantasy constructs, but they are oriented towards everyday life, and they are explained by him for better understanding with examples of everyday life or through comprehensible parables. He attaches great importance to the protection of personal secrets as well as to the private affairs of those seeking advice. For example, it happens that he receives visits from those seeking advice in the Sim-Ya-Se Silver Star Center without this being noticed by the other residents. The circles of antagonists accuse him of closing himself off from the public or of being kept behind walls of secrecy and inaccessibility by the members of the FIGU Association. It is no secret that Billy Eduard Albert Meier attaches great importance to his privacy, which he is also concerned about for every other human being. He knows only too well that too much openness opens the door to adoration of his personality, which must be avoided at all costs. And furthermore, he is not at all comfortable with flattery in any wise. Nevertheless, he keeps ways and means open for every human being honestly seeking his advice to reach him at any time of the day or night. The nature of his teachings is based on the principle of self-knowledge, the human being's own searching and researching, and their own thought work. Billy is a very good observer and judge of character. Due to this fact, he is able to recognize the learning goals, character traits, efforts, or problems and difficulties of human beings very quickly. However, far be it from him to interfere directly and unasked in the private affairs of FIGU members. Just as the Plejaren and the members of the Federation are by and large bound by their prime directive of non-interference, Billy also adheres to this prime directive in small and large ways. He also avoids direct interference when he recognizes that those concerned are struggling with major problems and difficulties. Only then, when he is asked, or when the situation urgently requires it, does he speak up and give advice. So it is also only when a certain need for action is recognized from his point of view that it can happen that he initiates a certain indirect evolutionary help and gives the person concerned a leg up through specific questions or impulses, whereby he always preserves the privacy of the one next to him and does not put him or her in distress. If someone does not want to talk about his or her worries, grief, or problem, Billy leaves him or her alone, but is nevertheless always ready to have a clarifying conversation and to help with advice and action if it is then still desired. The direct action for improvement or the effective remedy of personal problems, however, is ultimately in the hands of the persons concerned themselves, be they members of FIGU or those seeking advice from all over the world. It is not uncommon for FIGU members to be preoccupied in their thoughts with things that are being dealt with by Billy Eduard Albert Meier at the same time in the new spiritual teaching letters, but without informing the members about it. Occasionally, the aura of the center seems to be saturated with current topics from spiritual science. Often these topics are then unconsciously taken up by the FIGU members, in order to then discuss relevant facts in detail with Billy at the next meetings. Often, as if out of the blue, he brings up some facts for conversation, perhaps because he is writing something about them, or because he thinks the time is correct to talk about them. This often results in the interesting fact that days, a few weeks, 2, 3 or 4 months or even years later, television, newspapers, journals and science also take up the same topic, report on it in detail, and confirm his statements and explanations. And this often is in regard to things and facts about which nothing is yet known generally and officially by the sciences, etc. Whoever seeks advice from Billy Eduard Albert Meier should also have the necessary courage for the straightforwardness of his answers. He is not one of those human beings who glosses over the truth to those seeking advice and leaves them with a false self-image. His teachings and his words are of an honest nature and marked by reverence for his fellow human being. This respect and responsibility is palpable even when it becomes necessary for him to point out to his counterpart his or her weaknesses, shortcomings, or faults without hurting the human being in the process. For truth does not speak with tender, but with harsh words. Nevertheless, Billy Eduard Albert Meier does not claim that his teachings and advice will be accepted uncritically or taken on board without examination. Self-responsibility, equality, and the equal status of all human beings also demand of him as a teacher and admonishing friend that he accept the freedom of his fellow human beings to have their own opinion, even when the views and opinions of the seeker do not coincide with his own. And in Billy's words, the human being's will is his or her kingdom. He also teaches that a human being must never simply believe anything, but must seek the truth within himself or herself. So also in relation to him, no one should simply believe anything, but thoroughly clarify all the facts that arise, through rationality, understanding, and logic, in order to find the effective truth within oneself, through one's own contemplation, through one's own deliberations, cognitions, and through one's own inner and outer experiences, adventures, and through one's own counsels. Billy Eduard Albert Meier does not celebrate mass gatherings. The success of his teachings lies in teaching only in small groups, as explained in the ancient prophecy. Thereby, only those honest, searching and researching human beings will take upon themselves the effort of a demanding collaboration, as well as the necessary self-discipline to confront themselves with the teachings of Billy Eduard Albert Meier and FIGU, who are prepared to derive valuable benefits from them for life and for the evolution. This, however, will only ever be peculiar to human beings who have recognized the true secret of their existence and their task. That is why there are only a few thousand human beings on this earth who learn in small groups and know about the importance of thoroughness in the study of the spiritual teaching, creation energy teaching. Billy is a patient teacher who, without batting an eyelid and with stoic calm, is willing to repeat endlessly the obscurities and misunderstandings. These repetitions continue until ambiguities are clarified, open questions are eliminated, or everything is completely understood by everyone. This is particularly evident when the core group meets to study spiritual teachings. When new works and articles by Billy Eduard Albert Meier are read, and these readings are repeatedly interrupted by the questions of the core group members. His behavior towards the core group and passive members of FIGU is characterized by the awareness of equal value, equality, and equal rights. These values of the FIGU have their validity in everyday life, in the matters of the FIGU's rules of order, and in all areas of human existence. With his great knowledge and wisdom, Billy is thousands of years ahead of Earth humans, and yet this unimaginable difference is not felt in any negative kind and wise in one's daily dealings with this man. He has no need to distinguish himself in any kind and wise before the human beings in general, the FIGU passive members, or before the members of the core group of the 49, or to boast about his knowledge. His demeanor is neither arrogant nor condescending. Lack of understanding, clumsiness, or clumsy grasp of facts, as well as the attacks of the antagonists and his erring friends, are not acknowledged by him with arrogance or impatience. Rather, if necessary, clear and open language is the sword in his hand. If it is a matter of handling any work of which he has manifold knowledge and skills, then he can also be very patiently instructive there, in theory and practice. In case of ambiguities or misunderstandings, he is always patiently trying to put his teachings and explanations into other words in order to make his statements and the teachings more understandable for all members and fellow human beings. His language is unusually varied in this respect, and in fact it does not occur that he cannot explain something with his large vocabulary. If he has no knowledge of something, he does not try to give a flimsy explanation, but simply says that he has no idea of the corresponding matter and so cannot give an explanation. In fact, he does not feel too big to do so. In relation to the rules of order and in dealing with them, he is very strict within the FIGU. Likewise, with the correct reproduction of the teaching of the true facts and incidents. He does not tolerate any misinterpretation or falsification of the doctrine. It must be reproduced absolutely true to meaning, just as quotations must also be true to the letter. As a personal note, I would like to say that in none of my traditional professions, such as radio, TV, electronics, bookbinding, or social pedagogy, etc., have I been so much encouraged to be pedantic and meticulously correct and orderly as in the FIGU. Despite his very strict thoroughness, Billy Eduard Albert Meier is quite fair in his demands on the core group members. Decisions of the core group of 49 are governed in FIGU by a unity decision of the group. Therefore, Billy casts a very special eye on the correct observance of the decisions. Every member of FIGU has the opportunity to make proposals of any kind at the monthly general meetings. The group resolutions are also absolutely binding for the leader of the FIGU, Billy Eduard Albert Meier, and cannot simply be revoked by him against the will of the group. However, it is possible for him to make counterproposals if he sees the development of the association endangered by an unreasonable decision. Time and evolution take their course and bring constant transformations and changes. According to these creational laws, the FIGU is a dynamic entity that in certain respects must constantly adapt to new situations and circumstances, and Billy is aware of this. In this respect, he is open to innovations and also knows how to promote the personal development of the members or to make things easier for them. This also does not go unnoticed by the extraterrestrials working with him, who occasionally participate in improvements and new developments of processes in FIGU with technological means according to his interventions. The functioning and advancement of FIGU and its members is regulated by clear and sometimes strict rules of order, in which each member has to fulfill certain tasks and association duties. Billy knows how to use the personal skills, talents, and abilities of each individual member efficiently and for the benefit of the FIGU community. However, even as the leader of FIGU, he does not have the right to dispose of the members according to his will or dictatorially. Each individual FIGU member has the right to determine and decide for himself or herself on the use of his or her skills and his or her field of activity. The areas of responsibility of the members are documented in a FIGU handbook. The dissemination of the true truth and the far-reaching teaching require a high standard of quality from all members. Therefore, Billy Eduard Albert Meier's demands on the group are also very high in these matters. However, his correct dealings and clear attitude towards FIGU and the members enables each individual member to contribute to the quality standard of FIGU to the best of his or her ability and in a voluntary manner. The pace of work in FIGU is generally high. The members are often admonished by Billy to hurry, and just as with himself, there can also be nighttime assignments for the members. Nevertheless, the very great creative power of FIGU is characterized by a certain hurried leisureliness, which is also influenced by Billy Eduard Albert Meier, through his creative calm and forward-looking composure. Of course, he also has understanding for creative breaks and personal rest periods of FIGU members. He is well aware that the core group members, in addition to their professional obligations and in the fulfillment of their self-duties, invest their best skills and assets during their free time to the common goals of FIGU. Although he himself works continuously on the teaching letters, on any writings, or on the upkeep of the center, he neither exerts any coercion nor evokes any feelings of guilt. Nor does he exert any excessive work pressure on the core group members. He himself works 7 days a week and every night until the early hours of the morning. The long-standing and successful interaction between him and the core group members of FIGU is also based on a friendship of mutual learning, in which the strict and dutiful work is balanced with shared amusements, humor, or festivities. And even though Billy always sees to it that everything goes ahead, there is always time for instructive or private, as well as for advice-giving conversations, in which it always proves that he is both a brother and friend to everyone, as well as a helpful and understanding as well as loving father. So there is also a great connection of consciousness and feeling between the core group members and Billy Eduard Albert Meier in the achievement of a common and great goal for this planet. So between the core group members and Billy, there has also developed a feeling of great connection and trust, upon which stand the pillars of the high virtues of love, peace, and harmony, freedom, equality, equity, and a sense of responsibility. Without upholding these important principles, members could not ensure cooperation with Billy Eduard Albert Meier. The trust of each member is based on years of experiencing the integrity of Billy E. A. Meier. In the same manner that Billy appreciates not being revered as a guru, saint, or superhuman by the members of FIGU, the members appreciate his open personality and his constant fight against a cult of personality. Without a doubt, he is highly respected in the FIGU Association and by the core group of the 49 as a wise teacher and wise counselor. As a result, he can look back on and count on many long-standing co-workers who have recognized and experienced him as a true herald through countless personal experiences. But they also experience him as an ordinary human being who knows very well how to distinguish between the concerns of FIGU and private and personal matters. They have also come to know him as a human being who occasionally makes mistakes and is also able to admit them unapologetically. Apologies are not alien to Billy either, and on the other hand, the core group members can also be sure that they will not be torn to pieces by him because of any mistakes or negligence. He is extremely patient, and over again he gives everyone new chances to correct mistakes. And in fact, it can even take years with him in this regard until he finally puts his foot down. He is very forgiving and also exercises justice when malicious elements slanderously make other claims and put lies into the world. Truthfully, he is neither a dictator nor a guru, for such behavior does not suit him. It is no secret that we live in very expensive times. The upkeep of the Sim-Ya-Se Silver Star Center consumes a considerable amount of money. According to the bylaws, these expenses are covered by various revenues and mostly by core group contributions, with a smaller part also being contributed by the passive members. Contrary to all the malicious slander, Billy is in no wise a profiteer from these contributions, for in truth he lives only from his not exactly large old-age pension. It is to Billy's credit that he shows great understanding for the financial situation of the members. He is not involved in setting the membership fees, but only exercises an administrative function over them. In terms of membership fees, he therefore has no function, and so, in this matter too, the members are not put under pressure either by Billy, the FIGU Association, or by the extraterrestrials. And if there are bottlenecks and the necessary financial means are lacking, then Billy also feels included in the equivalence in this respect. So he often participates in the maintenance of the center, etc., with his own meager financial means. Contrary to the blind accusations of his many antagonists of making millions from the FIGU, the contacts as well as the visual material and the spiritual teaching, etc. This claim corresponds to a ridiculous slander behind which only envy, hatred, jealousy, lies, and malice are hidden. Through all that FIGU has achieved worldwide, however, the core group members cannot hide a certain pride, and the fact that all FIGU members are allowed to work together with a true prophet who passes on his books and writings to interested human beings at cost price, or often completely free of charge, makes them happy and joyful. And many a core group member wishes to be able to grasp and recognize the creational connections and the profound connections of FIGU with the extraterrestrial friends, with the human rationality, at the sessions with Billy, the true prophet of modern times, if also only for a split second. Then, when the aura of indescribable uniqueness and incomprehensibility is in the room, and also in my consciousness, only the spark of an inkling blooms. What it means to be able to participate in this universe-wide unique project of the FIGU, then happiness laughs in me, whereby love, joy, and harmony flow through me. 4. We bring the teaching of the truth of the creation and its all-time laws and recommendations, but we do not claim to be omniscient or that our teaching is all-time. For through the evolution of human beings, all of the cognitions, the knowledge and the ability, as well as wisdom and love, grows. Consequently, the state of truth and knowledge expands more and more, whereby the knowledge and ability, the understanding and grasping, as well as the wisdom and love and the vision into all that is creational, expands more and more, never rests, and goes on infinitely. Quote Billy,